Well, hello there and welcome. You are listening to the Kindness Matters podcast, and I am your host, Mike Rathbun. What is this podcast all about? It's about kindness. It's a pushback against everything negative that we see in the news and on social media today, and it's a way to highlight people, organizations that are simply striving to make their little corner of the world a little better place. If you want to join in on the conversation, feel free. Go ahead and follow us on all of your social media feeds. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're even on LinkedIn under Mike Rathbun. Check us out. And in the meantime, so sit back, relax, enjoy, and we'll get into the Kindness Matters podcast. Hey, hello, and welcome, everybody. Fantastic to have you here today, and also fantastic to have my guest here today. He's an amazing life coach and the author of the best-selling book, ready? Asshole to Awesome, Journey to Joy and Happiness. Welcome to the show, Ernest Wood.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mike.
We can call you Ernie, though, right?
Yeah, you can call me Ernie.
Just don't call me late for supper.
Or a-hole.
You're not that guy anymore.
No, I am not. No, most of the time I'm not.
9 times out of 10, I'm not. That's quite a title for a book. Now, and you say on your website that you were basically not a very nice guy to be around. I was just looking at that.
Oh, yeah, my description of myself there.
Self-description, yes.
It's funny because most of my friends say, dude, when were you an asshole? But when everybody has the same wrong kind of humor and those little things, right? And then you're in the same crowd, right? And that's
right.
Some of the buddies are like, no, I'm not going to read your book. I like being an asshole. So,
are there some people who just don't want to change? They don't want to be better or what have you? Do you think?
I think there's a lot of people that don't want to change. I think, unfortunately, in today's world, that too many people just get stuck where they're at and have absolutely no conscience to change or they just think they're right. There is no looking at the other side.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. It was funny because I was scrolling through TikTok before we came on, and there was a guy, and he said he was born in Germany, but they came to the United States and they were put down in Georgia, and then they moved from there to Mississippi. And he got sent home once from school for fighting. And his mom said to him in German, said, you have to be like these people are. And he was talking about racism at the time. But, I mean, you could probably throw any kind of bad behavior into that, right? And she said, because if you don't act like they do, you will always be getting into fights and you'll always be sent home from school. I found that really sad, but it kind of talks to what we're talking about, right? He didn't necessarily want to be that guy, but he felt like he had to, or his mom told him he had to, in order to get along. I don't know. Just throwing that out for what it's worth. And it kind of goes to that whole people don't want to change.
It's interesting though, because I grew up in a small town, and when I was first there, we all got along. It didn't matter what race you were, as long as you played some sports and you had that in common. And there was a time in my life where, not that I should use it, but I could use the N-word and nobody got mad about it. It was just, that was the group of friends we were with, right?
Right.
And then that same town got an influx of outside people, kind of during that bad era where there was a lot of gangs and right before the Rodney King thing. And
Oh yeah.
LA was sending some of their people receiving, handouts or whatever. They were sending up to the high deserts because the high desert was such a cheaper place to live. And then when that crowd came along, I became like an outsider to that same group because now like people were starting to accumulate, right?
Right.
So like the blacks were with the blacks, the Mexicans were the whites with the whites, and then it became separated. And then I learned that word is not supposed to be used by like a white guy.
Yeah, right.
Or anybody else, right? And then from there, I became pretty bad with the racism stuff. I had a friend beat up just because he was a white guy. He was in the wrong area. They ended up hitting him in the head with a brick and seeing him, and he ended up having to take a helicopter over to Loma Linda. And so there was different things that built up. And just like that, that young guy, his mom said, hey, you got to be this way or be that way or you're going to get beat up. So it's sometimes it feels like those bad things happen almost out of self-preservation.
Yeah, that's true.
We're put in situations where you're not allowed to be, who you are, who you want to be, because you have to preserve or you get beat up or you get this or that.
Yeah, and that's too bad. But how long were you an asshole? I can't say it with a straight face, man. I mean, was this most of your life, or?
I would say, well, besides when I was born, they said I was smiley, but from pretty much the majority from about, I don't even know, maybe 13, 14 to probably right around 43-ish, I had a lot of like inside anger. All my jokes were like racist, sexist. I just was just a person that I didn't really like inside. I mean, I had friends, but I didn't really like myself. When I looked in the mirror, it wasn't one of those warm and fuzzy things where I wanted to give myself a hug. Usually I looked at myself and went, damn, dude, you got to fix some stuff, man.
I was going to say, was there one specific tipping point where you went, this has to change. I can't keep living like this?
There was actually two of them, and one of them was a road rage incident. I talk about it in my book. I was listening. I already had started working down the path of trying to be a better person, and I always listened to books while I drove. So I was listening to Brian Tracy, and he was right at that time, he was talking about not giving away your emotions to another person. And I see this car coming on the freeway, and I'm like, dude, I know this jackass is going to get in front of me. So I squeeze up, and he flies across. He cuts me off. Boom, there it is. We start flipping each other off. I'm cutting off people, to prove the point. Don't cut me off. I'm going to cut off all these other people to tell him what he did was wrong. He brake checked me a couple times while, cut me off again, brake checked me. I'm losing my crap, man. I'm red faced, sweaty. And I finally get alongside of him, and I'm about, just to tell him, hey, pull over, let's go do this. And I look back there, and he has a little kid in the back of his car.
Whoa.
That, honestly, it was one of those moments that when I saw that little kid, I thought about the times that my dumbass did something similar with my kids in the car. But I was at the right spot in life where I could actually see, hey, man, this is not the right thing to do. So after that, I really started working on it real hard. I probably read 500 self-help books and different things. And then the last one, so that was like the first catalyst that really started moving. And the last one was when I was at work, I was working in the power plant, and one of my friends, I'm bitching and complaining about work and doing whatever, and he goes, "Man, you're just like this guy over here." And nobody on the plant wanted to be like that guy, right?
Oh, okay.
He was super negative. He used the F word like all the time, and he was just really, really negative. And when he told me that, I was like, man, I've been really trying to change, and I'm still that guy. Holy crap! So like that was the day that was my last thing that I went on a serious thing. I was like, I'm changing, and I was telling my friends about it, and they were like, dude, you should write a book. And then that's where we came up with the asshole to awesome. And it took me about 4.5 years to finally write it and get in a pretty good head spot where I can say I'm almost awesome sometimes.
Yeah. I'm awesome more often than not. How about that?
All right, we'll go with that one.
Yeah. And is this just a guy thing? Or is it, I mean, because men, we kind of stick with what we know, don't we? We have a tendency to.
I think guys in some way are harder headed about it. And like, we don't like to admit we're wrong, right?
No. God,
but
no.
What I find, like with the women's side of it, they hold on to crap forever, right? They, like, if you're married and you did something wrong 22 years ago, you're probably going to hear about it sometime in the next week or two. Right?
At some point.
There's a good chance, right? So
yeah, for sure.
In some ways, I think there's a little bit of a-hole in all of us, and it's just a matter of actually seeing where you're good and where you're bad. Like, and good or bad, it's all relative. Like, if you're not able to forgive somebody, then that's probably a bad thing. I'll give you a quick story about forgiveness. My mother just passed with cancer probably 4 months ago, maybe 5 months ago.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Actually, 7 months ago. And it was super fast. Like, she passed out, hit her head. They went in, they found out she had a stroke and she had cancer all over her body. About 3 years before that, though, we got into an argument, and so we weren't getting along, but we just started talking again because she held grudges. Like, she would not let stuff go. But to come to find out, when she found out that she was sick, she never told anybody, but she cut me out of her will.
Oh.
It was. And so when we went over there, I had a will that was there, and then I found out I was cut out of it. So it was like a big thing. But I was able to go back the next day and told her, hey, Mom, look, I forgive you. You know, I know all this happened and I don't have any hard feelings. I forgive you. I love you. And I wish this never happened. And then she told me, well, you can shit in one hand and wish in the other one and see which one fills up faster.
Oh my God.
And that was the last words that my mom ever spoke to me. So it was like one of those little ones that, like, it hurts.
Yeah.
But, like, to know that my mom was willing to go out without forgiving me was something that I can't imagine doing. And that's why I don't hold like grudges with anything anymore. It ate her apart. I know it was part of the reason that she, went so fast, because she didn't like herself, and she held every negative thing ever inside of her.
Wow.
That was a big changing moment in my forgiveness.
Yeah, and I know that from personal experience, and I kind of tend to do the same thing. I talked about this before, and it's not healthy at all to hold on to that stuff. I really like when we first kind of connected, you said, I believe kindness, gratitude, forgiveness, and empathy are the keys to making a better world. I couldn't agree with that more. Yeah, it's gratitude. Hey, we're coming up. Oh, we're in November.
Thanksgiving, huh?
Yeah. um, so when you have sessions, or you're a coach, right? Are
Yes.
most of your clients men, or do you have a?
Um, yeah, mainly just men. I work with high achieving men to help them rebalance their life because too many people in life, especially in today's world, we only look at the materialistic things, right? We want to create the successful business so we can make the most amount of money and maybe have the best car and while we're creating that, I find that too many people lose their self, their balance, right? And then balance is, for me, I use four pillars. It's your physical, mental health, your relationships, and your legacy. And to kind of bring that back to what you were saying with gratitude, empathy, forgiveness, and kindness, that is where we lack, is because we're so focused on being successful, quote unquote, in the term of today's world, that we forget like our relationships. We forget to be take care of our health, our mental health.
Yes, mental health is so important these days, and it's finally getting a little more attention. But we could do a lot better job about talking about it and just being open about needing help or getting help.
I agree 100%. And the bad thing is, I think like I'm trying to think of the right quote. The world, like our world is profoundly sick right now. Like not, and I don't mean that in a super negative way, but
Right.
when you have 131 million adults having a prescription drug, right? You have 78% of the people that are obese or overweight. 70% of the people are just in a constant state of dehydration. Over 60% of the people don't get enough sleep. I mean, there's just statistics upon statistics that's saying
Right.
that we're just in a sick world. Like, and a lot of it is just because we're out of balance. Like, not getting enough sleep is one of the biggest impacts on anybody's life. I mean, there's only one out of every 12,000 people that can live with less than 7 to 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah, for sure. I'm one of those people though. I found that as I age, I take ZQL to go to sleep at night and stay asleep. Because if I don't, I'm up like 2 hours after I go to bed. And my mind is running at a million miles an hour like a squirrel on a track, right? And I can't go back to sleep. And that's not healthy.
And you know why they're finding, so sleep efficiency peaks out when you're around 21 years old, or peaks out at like 85%. And then when you get older, your sleep efficiency falls off. But what they've been finding out why it falls off, especially in today's world, is because like your telephone, your computer, your TV, they give off the blue light, which used to only happen with the sun, right?
Right.
So it throws our circadian rhythm out of whack, which is one of the biggest causes of our sleep, inefficiency. And then that constant stress that all of us are in, most of us can't sit around. Like, you can't sit in a room by yourself for 5 minutes. Most people.
You mean like without a phone or something?
Yeah, without a phone, without some kind of outside stimulant. But what
Yeah.
I have found, like the most, and I'm going to take this back to kindness, the most kind thing that you can do for yourself is learn how to breathe properly and be okay with being there, just with yourself breathing. Um, there's a crazy thing that 50% of the people are now mouth breathers, which there's a saying that you should breathe through your mouth as often as you eat through your nose.
Oh. Well, there you go.
Basically never, right? It's just there's so many bad things it does for the body.
Interesting. I did not realize that. I mean, I've heard mouth breather as a pejorative, he's such a mouth breather. But I did not realize that that was not healthy.
It is actually, it's super unhealthy because we used to only breathe through the mouth when we were in stressful situations, right? Like, yeah, from like the caveman days when we were getting chased by the lion or whatever, you would breathe through the mouth. But now we're almost in a constant state of overstimulation. Even they talk about just watching, like when you sit on the phone, if you watch people when they look on the phone, like say you have your phone here, most of the time their mouths are open or slightly open, so they start breathing through their mouth. It's just a weird whole societal thing that we're in.
I used to notice that about my dad, and I always thought it was so weird, but he would sit there and watch TV, and he'd be like, just, and now I catch myself doing it, and I'm like, hey, snap out of it. But, like, yeah. Doorknob, knock it off. I did not realize. So what happens when you breathe through your mouth? What's the harm there?
So a lot of people don't realize is 80%. Let's see, what is the number? 80% of your detoxification actually happens through breathing, right?
Okay.
So when you breathe through your nose, that's where your hair,
right?
And it filters it, it warms it, it moisturizes it, and allows it to get into your system properly. When you breathe through your mouth, it doesn't allow any of that.
So we were talking about mouth breathing and how your nose filters out that stuff when you breathe through your nose, the toxins and whatnot.
Yeah. So the breathing through the nose, there's a whole lot of studies done on it, but basically you should be breathing through your nose all the time. And most of us shallow breathe, which that's when you see somebody, their shoulders raise up and down.
Yeah.
They say that the diaphragm is the most underutilized muscle in the entire body. So any of your guests, I would highly recommend learning how to breathe. It helps with your sleep. It helps with everything all the way down the line, right?
Oh, wow.
If you think about it, you can go months without eating. You can go a couple days without drinking. You only can go a few minutes without breathing.
Exactly.
And many of us are not breathing right pretty much all the time.
Now, is this part of your course as well? When you say balance, this is all encompassing, right?
Yeah. Because what I like to do is I find out like where you're lacking. Like I go through a bunch of questions and find out where you feel good about yourself. Where are a couple things? A lot of people lack in the same little areas, right? It's going to be energy. And so when they hit on energy, and then I go into their sleep, how much sleep do they get? And if they get enough sleep, then we talk about like their breathing. And then with the breathing, then we talk, and then their foods. And it's crazy. Like we were all taught growing up, 3 meals a day, four meals a day. And that little chart, remember that little crap chart that was a pyramid?
Yep.
If you look at that food nowadays, like half that crap you shouldn't even be eating.
Right.
And then like they've found most men operate better on an intermittent fasting schedule.
Interesting.
Me personally, I do a 16-hour fast every day. I'm actually on a 24-hour fast right now. I do a 48 to 72-hour fast monthly. And the benefits of that, like, do some research for yourself before you hop into a fast. But I mean, it's almost like getting stem cell. You can you can get rid of some of your cancerous cells. It'll go through a whole process where you'll actually get a testosterone boost. You'll go through like mental clarity. On my second day of fasting, I'm probably the most focused that I'm at all in an entire month. Those are my best, most focused days.
That's really interesting. Wow. I had no idea. I don't know that I could fast.
You'd be surprised because I used to be that guy. I ate at 7 o'clock. I ate at 10 o'clock. I ate at 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 6 o'clock. I was like into bodybuilding and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't miss food like ever. So I just had to do it in little increments. Like when I started doing intermittent fasting, I started with a 12 on, 12 off. And then I got it to, most of the time I'm between 16 to 18 hours, no food. And then I'll eat that 6 to 8 hours.
Okay. I think I could probably do it if the 12 hours were when I was asleep.
That's how you start, for real. For 100%.
That's the best part. Yeah, it's funny too, again, and we're probably talking about metabolism, and that maybe not be where you're at, but just I've become like hyper aware of the things that I could eat just like 10 years ago, that if I tried to eat like that now, I would just explode in weight. Sausage and bacon and eggs for breakfast and a sandwich for lunch and all this stuff. And I'm like, I even look at bread now and I put weight on, man. It's nasty. It's horrible.
Well, the bad thing is what they've done to the bread. And like, I am not a huge fan of the whole United States food industry. The FDA is funded by 45% funded by the people that they're supposed to be, regulating.
Yeah.
We have the crap oils that are out there absolutely destroying the bodies, sugars in everything, flour. And there's serotonin is actually produced. Most of it is actually produced in our gut, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that, which is serotonin is one of the most important hormones for our body.
Yeah.
And it's actually produced in our gut. And we're over here throwing sugar, which is horrible. And it just turns into acid. It just does bad things to your overall balance.
Right. Okay. So I guess in a roundabout way that does feed into what you were talking about, balance. This is all so cool. It's probably something I need to work on. And I keep talking to these coaches. They're like, well, you need to do the work and we need to get in there and see what you're really like. And I'm like, I have no interest in doing that. I'm 64. Every day I wake up is a blessing, right? So, I don't want to live to be 100. And I don't, yeah, whatever. And whatever. Again, whatever.
It's funny because it's just, you got to be okay with where you're at. And like you have this kindness podcast, which is awesome. And from chatting with you,
thank you.
You seem like you're okay with where you're at, right? If you were not happy and you disliked where you were at, then yeah, do the change. But if you're happy, man, and you're successful enough, to do the things that you want to do, and have that legacy, like that's part of the balance too, right? Is having that legacy.
That's right.
You don't want to go out being the guy who everybody talks about. Man, he was a great business guy, but he was a hell of a jerk.
He was a jerk.
Yeah.
He was an asshole.
Yeah, he was an asshole. Like, you don't. So
some people may still say that about me. Okay.
I don't know you that well, but it doesn't. I don't get the asshole feeling from you.
Well, you are doing amazing work, Ernie. I really, really appreciate the work that you're doing. And I will have links to your website. And if especially guys, if you're listening to this and you're not happy with where you're at, Ernie's your man. He can get you where you need to be and actually want to be.
I'll tell you, it's a cool little. Like I have a 6 little week. It's a 6-week program. I call it Master Your Life with Balance Blueprint, and it just helps you get in takes those 4 pillars, and find out where you're missing. And a lot of it's just little things. Like I'll give you one quick example, which I'll end it with. That is being grateful every single morning I write 3 things that I'm grateful for. One about myself, one about my partner, my wife, and then one about the world. If you can just change that and get that going in your life, your mindset
That's huge.
will change tremendously.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I know journaling is another one I think that helps.
100%.
And yeah, just do those things. Wake up every morning and if you can't find anything to be grateful for, there's some deeper work needs to be done, right?
We're probably going to have to refer you to one of my friends.
All right. Well, Ernest, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time that you spent with me today. I appreciate the work that you're doing, and keep up the good work, man.
Thank you, Mike. Pleasure being on the show.
Fantastic. Take care.
Bye.
I want to thank you for taking this time to listen to this episode with my guest, Ernie Wood. I hope you're able to take something positive from the time you spent here with us. Maybe you'll be inspired. Maybe you'll be motivated. Maybe you'll be moved. If you experienced any of those positive feelings, please consider sharing this podcast with your friends and family. Also feel free to follow us on our socials like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. This podcast is part of the Mayday Media Network. If you have an idea for a podcast and need some production assistance, or have a podcaster looking for a supportive network to join, check out MaydayMediaNetwork.com. You'll find the link in the show notes. And check out the many different shows like Afrocentric, Spoil My Movie, Generation Mixtape, In a Pickle Radio Show, Wake Up and Dream with D. Anthony Palin, and Stacks of Packs. We'll be back again next week with a new episode, and we would be honored if you would join us. You've been listening to the Kindness Matters podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rathbun. Have a fantastic week.